Today is Saturday, November 16th. The market is closed. Welcome to my weekly review. You're looking at a weekly chart of the Nasdaq, which gave up 606 points last week, or 3.15%. Gave back and relatively, I don't know, 60% of the gain from the prior week, which was up 5.75%. So we're up 5.75, and we're down 3 and 1. So up five, down three. The Nasdaq did make a high on Monday and then reversed. It was kind of going sideways there and absorbing the gains. And on Friday, the economic data is just too strong. And some of the Fed members are, pausing at the next meeting, maybe not lowering interest rates, and the market wants lower interest rates. So there's a little bit of a debate there. The prior week, there was the election, and then Powell came out, Jerome Powell, the head of the FOMC, came out on Thursday and lowered interest rates. And so we've had a half a point cut, a quarter point cut, and the market's expecting another a quarter point cut at the next meeting. But now with the economy so strong, uh, the sales data came in Friday really, really strong. So the economy is just too strong, I guess, for them to justify cutting interest rates at this point. So we'll have to wait and see. Who knows? Flip a coin. The Nasdaq did give up 427 points, or 2.24% on Friday. You can see the volume coming in here the last four sessions, well above the 50-day average volume, but it closed at 18,680. You can see it made a high on Monday, I believe, 19,366, kept bumping up against there, 43, 358, and then Thursday, weakness, and Friday just all out just selling. So taking profits. A lot of our leading stocks are extended, so this is not a surprise that the Nasdaq would give some back. Many of the stocks, though, came back to moving averages and found support. I'm going to get to that in a minute because I'm a stock picker. I don't trade the Nasdaq or anything, but I just wanted to point out, this is not the end of the world. The ranges are kind of wide, and yeah, and it closed near the low of the session there on the weekly range there, 19,366, like I mentioned. The low was a 598, and it closed at 680. So yeah, closing near the lows of the daily range. Not great. I do want to point out, though, that it closed below the 21, which, if you follow me at all, you know that don't like the index or even stocks trading below their 21, and it closed 0.4% below the 21 and 2.3% above the 50. So what we need to see next week is we need to see this stabilize and trade back above this rising 21. It's still in a power trend. The rally's getting a little long in the tooth here, but I think we could squeeze out some more new highs here going forward. Anyway, I'm going to get to some stocks. I said, like, I'm a stock picker. I don't trade the indexes, but if you want to take a look at the SPY, we'll take a look at the SPY. Same kind of action, except for the SPY closed right at its 21, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Yeah, it's now not selling off as hard as the Nasdaq and the S&P. So this one closed 0.8% above its 21. So those the SPY and the Dow are doing a little better. Anyway, I did mention some stocks showing relative strength, but I also want to point out some stocks to avoid when NVO and Lilly. These are both weight loss drugs. They've been monsters, but now they look like they're starting a stage 4 decline here. So just you never know when they're going to get support and stabilize and then start to form a new base. But for right now, these are definitely avoids below the 200, well below the 200, 10% below the 200, 10.6%. So Lilly, another one that was a winner recently that just fallen out, is Oscar, this insurance company. And then one of the cybersecurity names, Okta, is not acting well, but Palo Alto will report this week, and maybe this one's acting a lot better. So we'll have to wait and see what they have to say. The Zscaler, CrowdStrike, they look pretty good to me. This is Zscaler. right here at that 208.14. That's an area of interest. It just pulled back to its 10 on Friday. Yeah, I kind of like that action there, that little stage one base there for Z-scaler. Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm looking at stocks to avoid. ZETA, anytime you have, accounting, accusations or any of that, negative smoke swirling, you got to stay away from it. That stock's radioactive. And SMCI, they said they're going to come up with some plan on Monday, so the stock was up after hours. But we'll have to wait and see. There's an article in Barron's. They're going to get delisted if they don't. Anyway, enough of the negative stuff. We went down the negative road. Now we're coming back on the positive path because all I'm looking for is leading stocks showing strength. And I'm talking relative strength. When the Nasdaq is down, 3.15% in a week, you're going to expect your growth stocks to be down 6, 8, 10% because they do twice, two or three times the index. And this is Vistra, one of the leading stocks here. It was flat on the week. It was up 0.18%. So that's what you want to see during market weakness. You want to see some of this relative strength. The group is a pretty strong group. And you can see it had recently had a pullback here on the weekly, caught that moving average, and then bounced the last 2 weeks. So Vistra looks pretty darn good to me. There's your pullback here, this little, bull wedge action we've seen a lot of. Pulls back to its 50 and then pops. So it looks pretty good to me. It's above the 10. So we'll take that. And of course, App Lovin had a monster week the prior week. I got to go to the weekly chart because this looks like a short stroke pattern in spirit. Now it's not supposed to make a new high, but it did on Thursday. It went up to 302.55, but the 77% move the prior week, you'd expect it to give some back, right? Well, no, it was actually up 0.37%. So Apple Oven definitely one to keep your eye on. I still think it's 300 is going to be resistance for a while as these moving averages start to catch up. It's now only 14% above its 10 and 33% above its 21. So it needs more time, and hopefully it could just form this little shelf pattern, keep doing this, 280 to 300, 280 to 300. That would be fine and allow the moving averages to catch up. SRG, another one a stock that I like. I think it's acting well, showing relative strength. Yeah, it sold off on Friday, one and 0.89%, but it just pulled back to its 10. So that's what you want to see, stocks that rise up and then pull back to moving averages gently, rise up, pull back to moving averages. And so Intuitive Surgical is acting really well, I think. Let me see, Service now. Once again, closed right at its 10. Yeah, right at its 10 EMA. So that's doing nothing wrong. I know it's down 2%, but the index was down 3.15. So, any stock above its 10 right now is doing really well. And I'm showing you a lot of these. Walmart, you're thinking Walmart's a leading stock? Well, it's just surfing its moving averages here. Closed just a tick above its 10. So yeah, Walmart's acting well. They're going to report on the 19th, which is Tuesday before the markets open. So something to watch there. GoDaddy, and I'm just showing you stocks that are, relative strength. I'm not saying these are set up to buy, so I'm just citing relative strength. That's all here. GoDaddy was a buyback here, but now it's a little extended. Talk about the stocks that are just getting way extended from, their moving averages. I just showed you Apple 11, still 14%. So they need time. And so it's okay if they pull back a little bit, especially in light volume. And this is what you want to see, the breakout, make a new high, then pull back gently in lighter volume. So GoDaddy looks pretty good to me. CRS, Carpenter, similar action, had that nice move during the election week and the lower interest rate, and then pulled back to its moving average, and, on light volumes, is rising to new highs and gently pulling back to moving averages. And that's what I want to see out of my leading stocks. GEV, this one, I thought it was going to bounce sharply off its 10, and it started to, but the market was just so darn weak. Here it is on Friday. There's your bounce off the moving average, but it just sold off into the close, and it's just market weakness holding this one back. But it just pulled back to its 10 and bounced slightly. If you look at the weekly chart, I mean, yeah, it was down 3.35%, which is about what the index did. So still trading above its 10. GEV showing relative strength. Quanta Services, another one. This is a top group here. A lot of stocks in this group are doing well. Just pulled back 2.31%. And then on the daily, you could see makes the new high and then pulls back to the 10. So um, that's another one that I like a lot. Now, if you're into Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, I mean, yeah, when the index is down 3.15%, you'd expect it to be down 5, 6, 10%, right? Nope. It's up 26% on the week, but close in the middle of its weekly range there at 53% because it spiked on Monday, I believe it was, yeah, then made a new high on Wednesday, then reversed, and still well ahead of its 10 EMA, 11.9%. So MicroStrategy is super strong stock, and so is Coinbase. Had this one on the ready list last week. It popped, and then it pulled back to that pivot point, and then on Friday made a nice, nearly 10% move, but it was up 13% on the week, and you can see this consolidation here on the weekly. Base, rise up, form a base, rise up, form a base. Now this has been in a long consolidation period. You can see there 32 weeks. So I think Coinbase is ready to move higher. We look at that on the daily, yeah, and it had a nice week. Anytime the index is down 3%, you're up 10 or more, we'll take it. Heck, anytime your stock's up 10%, even if the Nasdaq's up 5%, you had a great week, right? DoorDash, just a thing of beauty here. It was up 9 weeks in a row. Then last week pulled back 1.15% while the index was down 3.15. And you can see the volume here, lighter volume on the week, which is what you want to see. Up on big volume and then gently pulling back to a moving average on lighter volume. So I don't think it's going to form another base like this, but it'll probably give you some sort of a 3 weeks tight or a shelf or just a bounce off a moving average, another opportunity to buy that one if you don't own it yet. Netflix, this one's showing strength, but after last night's performance, it might sell off on Monday. It was really glitching during the fights last night and pulled back Friday only 1.5%. We'll see what it does on Monday. It's 2.3% above the 10. Like I said, any stock above the 10 is a strong stock. Some of the financial names. I'm trying to be well-rounded here and show you, all these different groups that are strong. It's a strong market. This is Morgan Stanley, and it's forming a little shelf, trying to, do its app loving imitation here. It's 3.7% above the 10. Popped and then holding its gains, which is what we want to see because we've seen some stocks pop and then give it all back the next couple of sessions, and that's not what we want to see. Goldman Sachs, another finance company that gapped higher, 13% now holding its gains, still 2.7% above the 10. And then AMP, another one of these financial stocks, gapped higher, holding its gains, trading tight, allowing the moving averages to catch up. So that looks like good action. Of course, I can't go much further without mentioning the software name Palantir, which is switching from the trades on the New York Stock Exchange, and now they're going to switch over to the Nasdaq, which makes it eligible for the Nasdaq 100 index. So it popped on that news. It's just been a super strong stock, up 11% on Friday and up 12.64% for the week. So, that is beyond relative strength right there. Deckers, I like the setup in Deckers. So I talk about stocks that are showing a lot of strength that aren't actionable. This one to me looks like it is. Might need some more time to form a handle, but this is a nice consolidation period. You have 22 weeks. It was flat on the week. Yeah, just a really strong name. The group is not strong, but this stock is a leader in the group. Yeah, look for a shakeout, a pullback maybe to the 21 or below, and then a rip higher in the next couple of weeks. Decker's TGTX, this is a biotech stock, gapped. No, it didn't gap. it's just been inching higher. And then on Thursday, was it, or Wednesday? Wednesday, there was rumors that AstraZeneca was going to buy them. And, all long has to do is start a rumor that it's going to be bought out, and the shorts had to cover. So it was up nearly 13%. On Thursday, gave 11% back. Then on Friday, pulled back to the moving average of 10 and closed, 0.3% above the 10. But on the week, it was up 2.5%. So we'll take that. Closing at the lows of its weekly range here, 8%. So, um, this one's, I think, longer term, they're just going to continue to report strong sales and earnings growth over time. Another biotech name, MIRM. This one is Mirum Pharmaceuticals, set up in this base here, pulled back on Friday, still well above its, yeah, 4% above the 10, but looks good. Let's take a look at the weekly. This is a weekly review, and there you can see that, base right here is base, rises higher, trades higher, forms a nice base, rips higher. Now it's formed this consolidation for 10 weeks. That one looks pretty good. HQY. Another stock flat on the week, which is good, following the prior week when it was up 14.5%. So it consolidated, broke out, and then traded flat. So that looks pretty good. Pulled back to its 10, bounced on Friday, 3.5%. That one looks good. Pay. This one gapped higher and then formed in, double inside day. So that looks pretty good to me. There's been quite a few stocks gapping and not holding, but there's been some stocks gapping and then trading higher. And this one's gapped and just holding its gains. So you got to pay attention to that. TOST. This is a finance payment. This is one that gapped higher and just keeps trading higher, higher and higher, higher. Look at this blue volume bars here. A lot of strength in toast. It's a weekly review, so I got to show you the weekly chart. And there it is, man. That's a real strength, up 8.3% last week. NTRA, this is one that I believe it was Druckenmiller has bought this one. The 13Fs came out. Yeah, it was up 8.9% last week, so that's a good week. But it did gap higher. And the low on the gap day was 152, and it immediately traded below the 152. So it's probably going to come back, I don't know, around that 140 area, which is about where the 10 is. So maybe come back to the 10, find support. But, I don't like stocks that undercut the lows of the gap day. They tend to come back to to the pivot point or to a moving average. So anyway, I can't stand stocks going lower. I'm a front runner. Tesla, gapped higher following the election, gave a little bit, back, just pulling back to moving average, rips higher in these big blue volume bars, sells off a little bit with lighter volume. Let's see what it looks like on the weekly. It just flat on the week, which is great. When you move 29%, then give back nothing, that's a solid week. Maybe it'll form a 3 weeks type pattern next week. That's what I'm hoping for with some of these stocks like Apple and Tesla. That would be fantastic. And then Nvidia, they're reporting on Wednesday after the close. It fell 3.83%. I expect a shakeout prior to earnings, undercut the 21, scare everyone, get those retail folks to sell, and then, blast higher. Might even sell off after the earnings report, pull back to the 50 or something, or even below it and really shake the trees. But I'm expecting a strong report from Nvidia. Anyway, let me see. I mentioned stocks gapping, so I'm going to explain this a little bit. So Shopify gapped higher. Was it Tuesday? And the low of the day was 106, right? And then the following day came back 106.18. So I'm going, okay, it's holding that low day, right? Thursday, the low was 109. So it looks like it's just going to continue to grind higher. But then on Friday, undercut the low from the gap day at 105.25. So definitely watching shop, allowing the moving averages to catch up. And if it comes back down to that 91.57 area, we'll take it. If it pulls back to that 10, which was at 98.26 on Friday, it's a fast rising 10. If it wants to meet it at 100, that might be a good time to buy too. So definitely watching that. A-Lab is another one that I'm watching. Big move on earnings the prior week. The low was 84.11. and it didn't come close. The next day was 86.50, and it really started trading higher, bumped along that 100 level, and even crossed it on Monday, and then the next 4 days sold off. Sliced its 10, but never never undercut the low from that gap day of 84.11. Came close though on Friday to 85.01. So we'll see. It's right now at its moving average. I'm expecting a bounce. We've seen a lot of stocks recently that have done this where they pull back to the moving average and then pop higher. But 100 is probably still going to be resistance. So you're looking at it's at 86. You probably got a downside of 80 and an upside of 100. So trade it as you see it. But that's the way I see it. Yeah, lighter volume on the move, lower, and you can see that somebody's buying this thing every week. That has a big volume week is a buy week, right? So these are institutional footprints here, institutions like this, and then it sells off on a lighter number. Okay. Anyway, that's it for A-Lab. Upstart's another one that I was watching. The Friday of the election week, which 2 weeks ago, that Friday it popped. Big number, right? Yeah, 46%. And the low of that session was 64.59, and didn't give it back that last week, but it just pulled back to its 10 EMA. So the low of the gap day is 64.59, and the low on Friday is 64.60. So to a penny, right? Just a penny above. So I'm looking for Upstart next week to bounce off this 10 and trade higher. If you like that type of trade, definitely one to watch is Upstart for sure. All right, Dave. Dave's not home. Gap tire on Wednesday, I believe that was the gap day. Really had a strong move, and some people were saying, "Oh, this is the next MCI, SMCI." I don't know about that, but it did gap up 44%, massive volume, and the low of that session was a 75.20. The low on Friday is 75.69. So another thing that I'm watching there on these gaps. We're seeing these gaps. Our NTRA, I showed you this earlier, and undercut the gap day low. POWL, another one that gapped higher, and then obviously just fell out here now below the 21. So I don't like that. Nope. I did mention app loving, and I'm just hoping app loving just forms a shelf pattern, a 3 weeks tied. If you could see it here, it's 2 weeks tied. It's trading right around that 290. The last was 290 the prior week, and then on Friday it closed at 291.09. So another week around 290 closing, I think we'd be in business here. So another one that I'm watching. Uh, Palantir, I showed you that one. Rocket Lab. Yeah, gap higher than undercut. So, yeah, that's probably going to pull back to moving average or even fill that gap there. And then pay, they just gapped higher and then had that double inside day. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Except for in honor of the great Steve Jobs, I have one more thing, and that is, there's a lot of talk about the election and all that stuff, and I just think that you don't be dogmatic in your positions and your narratives. I went and showed you how, and when Biden took office in, what was it, 121 of 2021, something like that. Uh, in phase, it's thought to be, Biden's this big green monster guy, the green energy, and they're all going to do well. It's going to be great. And the solar stocks did not perform well. You can see Solar Edge is diving. Plug Power is another one of these energy things. These things just died. So don't think that we have a new administration and this, whatever the oil is going to do well or whatever your narrative is, just keep an open mind. Don't be dogmatic about it because this thing can really get you into trouble, this type of thinking. And if you just use your rules and sell when they, if you're 5% down, you sell, or if they slice the 50, you sell, and don't get hurt. Don't lose more than 5% on your thesis because your thesis could be wrong. And that just brings me to, the XBI, which I thought, with the new administration, with getting rid of Dr. No, that the biotech sector would do well because They really thrive on mergers and acquisitions. And XPI is not acting well at all. It sliced its, obviously this has to do with RFK being the HHS chair, but we'll just see what happens. I'm going to keep an open mind. This thing can rebound, and I'm sure there will be mergers and acquisitions more frequently in this biotech sector in the next 4 years with the new administration. So, this industry kind of relies on it. So don't be, dogmatic and thinking, oh, it's going to suck and it's going to go down forever. This thing could certainly recover and bounce, and I think it will actually. It's just, knee-jerk reaction type of stuff, which is could be an opportunity, right? I mean, this is really selling off hard, and so yeah, my point is just don't get too locked in and too dogmatic about your position, or your political opinion. Just we're trading stocks. We're trying to make money in stocks. We're not trying to cure cancer here. Anyway, the SOXL, this has been down 6 days in a row. So people were asking me, why is the semiconductor so weak? I don't know. I don't have to know. All I need to know is this thing's been down 6 days in a row, showing incredible weakness. This is NVIDIA and Qualcomm and Broadcom and AMD and Marvell, and this is not acting well. This is the SMH. Semiconductors is just completely weak right now. So just a couple of areas that are showing signs of weakness. And then one area that's been, perking up here is the XLE. So this has got my attention as well. And there's been some stocks in that group that I could share. I guess since I'm mentioning it, YPF. This is another one that big Druckenmiller is buying, and so people got to follow like sheep. But definitely, showing strength, showing good fundamentals, and it's going higher in a week tape. Up 10% last week. So just keeping an open mind now. A lot of stuff is going on, so there's going to be a lot of changes, and so you got to see which sectors are starting to move higher, which ones are starting to show strength, and which ones might weaken a little bit. The XLF, this one has been super strong as well. This is a financial. Once again, we see this this wedge pattern here, and then it just popped after the election. It's holding its gain. So the financial group performing well. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Don't get too down because we had a bad week. We're going to come back. We're in a power trend and keep the faith. Never give up.